You're too slow, man.
For 6 years, one gang ruled an entire high school. They sold drugs in the hallways, beat students in broad daylight, threatened teachers, and turned the principal into a scared bystander. Nobody stopped them. Not the police. Not the parents. Not even the school board. Then one morning, a substitute teacher walked through the front doors. At first, nobody paid attention to him. He looked ordinary, quiet, forgettable. But during his first class, a student pulled an ice pick and tried to intimidate him. 30 seconds later, the weapon was on the floor, and the kid was begging him to let go of his wrist. That's when the gang realized something was wrong. This wasn't a teacher. This wasn't a cop. And whatever this man used to do before walking into their school, it taught him how to deal with violent people far worse than them. The kings of destruction thought they owned the school. What they didn't know was that they had just declared war on the one man in the building who wasn't afraid of them. Columbus High School, Miami, Florida. Before we meet the hero, we need to understand the war zone he's walking into. This isn't your average troubled school. This is a place where teachers count the hours until they can leave, where students carry ice picks to first period, where the hallways feel less like education and more like occupied territory. And the ones doing the occupying, they call themselves the Kings of Destruction. The KOD, led by a cold, calculated 18-year-old named Juan Lacus, a young man who doesn't raise his voice, doesn't beg for respect, and doesn't need to. The entire school bends around him like gravity. Students fear him, teachers tiptoe around him, and the man running the school, he's got his own reasons for keeping Lacus exactly where he is. But we'll get to that. Right now, there's a teacher named Jane Hetzko who has spent years fighting for these kids, a woman who genuinely believes education can reach through the chaos. She's tried with Lacus, spoken to him like a person, treated him with dignity. His response? You'll fucking wish you did. Jane goes to the principal, Claude Roll, a composed, well-dressed man who used to work Miami's gang unit. He knows every trick in the book. Deadpan, he tells her what the law tells him to say. No direct threat, no solid evidence, no transfer. His hands are tied, or so he says. What Jane doesn't know, what nobody in that building knows yet, is that Roll isn't just the principal. He's the silent infrastructure behind the school's drug pipeline. The KOD aren't just a gang, they're a distribution network, and Roll is the executive who's been running it for years, ever since someone started paying him while he was still wearing a badge. Jane keeps pushing. She wants Lacus out, and Lacus finds out she's pushing. One evening, Jane is jogging near the beach, the kind of normal, peaceful routine that good people keep. She never sees the attack coming. Intense, a massive man, 6'6", known only as hired muscle connected to a dealer named Johnny Glades, cripples her, breaks her kneecap, clean, deliberate, professional. A message, not a crime of passion. Jane ends up in the hospital, her leg destroyed, her career on hold. She needs a substitute, and she calls around trying to reach a regular sub named Michael Jones. He's booked, so word reaches someone else entirely.
Coming from the shoulders, focus, so when I bomb ammonia, can't let that slide when you talk about my California.
His name is Tom Shale. At first glance, he looks like someone's older cousin who showed up to a dinner party. Calm eyes, measured movements, a man who seems to exist slightly outside of normal time, like he's always thinking 3 steps ahead, but never bothered to tell anyone. What he actually is, or rather what he was, is a mercenary. Special operations, long-range reconnaissance in Vietnam, then decades of contracted work in places governments deny knowing about. Cuba, Nicaragua, Panama, the kind of jobs that don't make the evening news. He's just come off a blown mission in Cuba. 3 of his men, Stark, Westlake, Rudy Garcia, didn't make it. The operation was disavowed before the bodies were cold. Shale is retired now, not by choice. He's staying with Jane Hetzko, an old connection, one of those relationships that's hard to explain, layered with history, trust, and the unspoken weight of people who've seen things most people can't. When Jane is attacked, something shifts in Shale. He calls his old crew, Joey, Holland, Rem, Wellman. He tells them about the school, about what happened to Jane, about the KOD, and the drugs he suspects are moving through the building. A high school? Yeah. Their silence is almost funny. But Shale has already decided. He has a contact, someone called Rem, who plants his credentials in the school registry overnight. By morning, the computer shows a Mr. James Smith, Harvard grad, 2 master's degrees from Yale, PhD from Princeton. Rem laid it on a little thick. What do you want on such short notice? Next morning, Shale walks through the front doors of Columbus High School, wearing a tie. The war, as far as the KOD is concerned, hasn't started yet. They don't know. It already has.
Cop becomes a high school principal.
You want the short version? I was at the Liberty City riots in 1980. Not the best time to be a black cop in Miami.
Principal Roll greets the new substitute warmly. He checks the computer, sees the credentials, and nods approvingly. He gives Shale directions to Jane's classroom and one piece of advice that doubles as a warning. Power perceived is power achieved. Shale files that away. He'll use it later. He walks into the classroom. No teacher at the front, no order, music blasting, a kid doing something indescribable in the corner, another student, Tay, built like a linebacker rolling something across the floor toward the new teacher's feet. The class doesn't look up. Why would they? Substitutes are nothing. They come, they sweat, they leave. Shale calls roll. When he gets to Juan Lacasse, he hesitates. Silence. A beat. The room practically holds its breath, waiting to see what happens. Nothing happens. Shale marks him absent and moves on. Then he gets to Jerome, a loud, charismatic kid from Opelika, who immediately launches into a rap performance about his neighborhood. The class loves it. Shale watches, unreadable. That's real special, Jerome. Not sarcastic, not dismissive, just neutral, which in this room is somehow more unsettling than anger. Then Rodriguez pulls out an ice pick. Shale doesn't call security, he doesn't raise his voice, he walks directly to Rodriguez and in one clean movement, the kind you learn when someone's been trying to kill you for 30 years, he bends the kid's hand backward until the ice pick hits the floor. It's impolite to stick your finger in somebody's chest. Hand over the ice pick. The room goes absolutely still. Shale picks up the ice pick, hands it back to Rodriguez for a split second, then takes it away again. Then he sends Tay and Rodriguez to the nurse's office and turns back to the class with the energy of a man who just straightened a crooked picture frame. I'm in charge of this class. I'm the warrior chief. I'm the merciless god of anything that stirs in my universe. You mess with me, and you will suffer my wrath. He pauses. ¿Entienden? ¿Estoy claro? Here's what nobody in that classroom realizes in this moment, and what makes this scene educational in the deepest sense. Authority is not volume. Real control doesn't announce itself. It demonstrates itself once, clearly, without hesitation, and then it never has to repeat. Shale just demonstrated it. The class gets back to Vietnam. Within 24 hours, the KOD knows something is wrong. Lacasse sits in the back of the classroom, watching Shale the way a chess player watches the board. This man moves differently, speaks differently, takes up space in a way that doesn't match any substitute teacher Locus has ever seen. He makes a call. And Roll, the principal with the warm smile and the community council platform, gets nervous. He pulls Locus's file off the system, tells Shale he can't share it with temporary employees. Shale smiles and thanks him for his time. Meanwhile, in the teacher's lounge, two other staff members fill in the blanks. Daryl Sherman, English and drama, big heart, quick mouth, is the one who tells Shale about the KOD, about how Locus threatened Jane, about how nothing ever sticks to him, about how Roll keeps making decisions that protect the gang more than the students. Hannah Dillon, the school librarian, is blunter. She's been watching this happen for years. She knows what a compromised institution looks like. The interesting thing is what Shale does with all of this. He doesn't act immediately. He listens. He goes back to the classroom. He starts teaching. Actually teaching. He talks about Vietnam, about fighting on the Ho Chi Minh Trail with mountain tribes, about running out of ammunition, and taking AK-47s off enemy dead to keep going. One of the students connects it immediately. That sounds like a Saturday night in Miami. And then something strange happens. He keeps talking about gangs, not to lecture, but to engage. He traces gang history from the Apache warriors to biker clubs in the 50s to the Black Spades. He asks the students about their own histories, their kids, their futures. He asks how many of them have been to gang funerals. Too many hands go up. How many of you want that for your own kids? No hands. Then why do you want it for yourselves? The room gets quiet in a different way than before. Not fear quiet, thinking quiet. Shale glances back. They're listening. He doesn't say anything about that moment. He just continues. Shale has been watching, and what he sees doesn't add up. High school students driving $50,000 BMWs, cellular phones and pagers on 16-year-olds, a gang that operates with the calm efficiency of a mid-sized business. He connects with his crew. They start pulling threads. A fruit stand on Griffin Road, owned by a Native American man named Johnny Glades, a man police have surveilled repeatedly and never charged. He's the muscle. He's the one who broke Jane's kneecap. Lacoste is Glades's point man inside the school. And Roll, the decorated ex-cop, the community champion running for city council, has been on Glades's payroll since before he was ever a principal. When he transitioned from police to education, the arrangement didn't stop. It evolved. Glades funnels drugs. Roll provides the infrastructure. The KOD distributes it directly through the school system, using the buses, the boiler room, the routines nobody questions. They said busing would never work. Shale tells Joey. They surveil the fruit stand. They watch Lacoste make a car switch. They follow the money. Then they move. At the waterway near Griffin Road, Shale and his crew intercept a shipment. $500,000 in drugs goes to the bottom of a canal. The hired muscle, including the man who attacked Jane, gets dealt with in the way Shale knows how to deal with things. The message is received. Johnny Glades calls Roll. Roll calls Lacoste. The name Smith starts appearing in the wrong conversations. Ain't no fucking teacher. They're right. But they don't know yet just how right.
Now, if you were to apologize to these two young men,
Oh, that'll be the fucking day.
you leave me no choice. I'm gonna have to let you go.
No, wait a minute. According to the union, you can't fire me without 2 weeks' notice, not unless you want a public hearing in front of the school board.
Hey, you do what you have to do.
Roll is a complicated man, and that's what makes him dangerous. He genuinely believes or has convinced himself that what he does is sustainable, that the money, the power, the community influence are all part of some larger balance he's struck. He gives speeches about devastation versus education. He tells the story of watching Liberty City burn in 1980, choosing schools over streets. But the choice he actually made was a third option: corruption, dressed in community clothing. When Shale starts dismantling the operation, Roll doesn't panic visibly. He maneuvers. He uses his platform. When Daryl Sherman, who has slowly pieced together what Roll is, starts getting too close to the truth, Roll moves. Daryl is found off the Palmetto Expressway, shot in the head. The next morning, Roll makes an announcement over the school PA. He tells students that Mr. Smith, Shale, was killed in a drive-by. He tells them Daryl Sherman is dead, too. It's a clean move. Eliminate the threat, neutralize the witness, resume operations. What Roll doesn't know is that Lisa Rodriguez, a student who had written Jane a heartfelt letter asking her not to give up on them, saw something the night of the parent-teacher conference. She was in the building. She was in the basement. She saw what was stored in the boiler room, and she found Jerome. Jerome, who Shale trusted enough to hand his classroom to for one day. Jerome, who Shale called son with the quiet weight of a man who meant it. Jerome and Lisa find Jane's apartment. They tell her everything. Roll has been moving drugs in on school buses, storing them in the boiler room, using the KOD as the last mile of delivery. Jane makes a call on a recording device. Mr. Smith, this is Jane Hetzko. I've got those papers graded. If you could drop by and pick them up. The message reaches Shale. He's alive. He was always alive. He was just watching.
Who's here? Or decaf? Tea?
No, thank you. Could we talk about the job at hand?
You're a real cut-to-the-chase kind of guy, huh, Shale?
That's me.
Shale goes to see Wolfson, the lawyer who originally tried to hire him for Glade's operation months earlier. The meeting at the Jaya Frantan is not a conversation. It's an interrogation. Shale learns everything he needs to know: how long Roll has been paid off, how the school system became the distribution network. Wolfson, who has spent his career being the dangerous one in every room, finds himself on the wrong side of someone who learned dangerous in a place where dangerous people get buried in unmarked graves. You're gonna leave the country tonight, and you're not coming back, or I'm gonna be unreasonable. Am I clear? Wolfson leaves. Shale moves toward the endgame. He pulls his crew back in. They're going to hit the school, get the drugs out of the boiler room before Glade's operation can recover and rebrand. The problem is, Lacoste finds out. He locks down the school. His crew is waiting inside, and Johnny Glades sends his own people in from the outside. 3 groups converging on one building: Shale's crew, the KOD, and Glade's hired soldiers, all of them moving toward the same boiler room. This is the part of the story where the school stops being a school and becomes a battlefield. And Shale, for the first time in the entire film, is completely in his element. The school fight is not glamorous. It's not choreographed. It is fast, brutal, and costly. Rem is killed. Wellman is killed. Holland, loud, irreverent Holland, who called Shale a coward after Cuba and bickered with him like a brother, is killed. Joey barely makes it. Shale himself takes significant damage. He is bleeding by the time he reaches the boiler room, but the drugs are secured. Glades' men are down. The KOD is broken. Which leaves Roll. The principal corners Shale in the school's darkened interior, and here is where the film delivers its most devastating scene, not because of the violence, but because of what's said. I look at you, and you know what I see? I see me when I was young and stupid. I see me when I was soft, and that just don't cut it. He prepares to execute Shale with the calm of a man who has made this calculation before. But Roll made one mistake. He forgot that the school still had a camera, that Shale had already been recording, that the man standing in front of him had been running covert operations before Roll was a detective. Huh, smile. You're on candid camera. Roll is taken down, not messily, precisely, the way Shale does everything. He walks Roll to the blackboard, makes him face it. I'm sorry. It's a special mantra for flunkies. Johnny Glades is found, broken, captured. The police arrive, 3 hours late because Roll had them on the payroll, but they arrive and they find exactly what Shale has left for them to find. In the aftermath, Shale stands in the wreckage of the school gym with Joey. The building is damaged. 3 of their crew are gone. The operation is dismantled. It's too bad we had to mess up the school. I feel bad for the kids. They'll be okay. At least, it's their school again. That line lands harder than anything else in the entire film, because that was always the real stakes, not the drugs, not Roll's political career, not even Jane's kneecap. The real stakes were whether those kids, Jerome, Lisa Rodriguez, the student whose uncle lost his legs in Vietnam, the girl who wrote that letter asking her teacher not to give up on them, would ever get to attend a school that belonged to them. Shale gave them that, at a tremendous personal cost, and he did it for reasons that had nothing to do with money. When Johnny Glades had called earlier and threatened him, letting him hear what happens to people who interfere, Shale didn't flinch. Not because he wasn't afraid, but because he'd already decided what this was worth. Joey asks what's next, suggests LA, mentions the schools out there have a major drug problem. No more schools, man. Forget it. A beat. You could teach PE. What, I look retarded? They leave. Miami's morning light. A city that still has all its problems, and always will. But one school, one corridor, one boiler room, one set of classrooms belongs to the students again. Jerome stands in the hallway. He doesn't have any grand speech. He just stands there, looking at the school like it's a different building than the one he walked into 6 days ago. Maybe it is. Here's what the substitute gets right that most action films don't bother with. The most dangerous thing in a broken institution isn't the criminals at the bottom. It's the corrupted authority at the top. Roll wasn't dangerous because he was violent. He was dangerous because he was trusted. He wore the face of a reformer while running the exact system he claimed to be fighting. That's not just a movie plot. That's a documented pattern in real institutions, schools, police departments, governments, where the person most responsible for protection becomes the person enabling the harm. What Shale exposes isn't just a drug ring, it's the infrastructure of betrayal that made that drug ring possible. And he does it not by becoming part of the system, but by refusing to be bought, lectured, or intimidated by it. The kids at Columbus High didn't need a savior. They needed someone who wouldn't flinch when the pressure came, someone who looked at Juan Lacasse writing on the blackboard and said, "Life is a chess game, and this is a crucial move." Sometimes the most powerful thing a person can do is simply refuse to leave.
Fuck that shit, yo.
That motherfucker, man!
I don't like disorder in my room. Clean it up, Tay.
Fuck you, man!
So a mercenary walked into a war zone wearing a tie. And the gang that thought they owned the school found out the hard way that some substitutes can't be replaced. But here's what's wild. This wasn't even the most insane things humans have done to each other this week on this channel. Because the next story we're covering, 6 men drove into a quiet little English town for a weekend getaway. And the second they arrived, every single woman in that town had already turned into something that wanted them dead. We're talking laundry detergent. We're talking blood on shop windows. We're talking a horror that started in the washing machine and ended in a massacre. If you leave now, you miss the part where they figure out how it started. And trust me, that explanation is worse than the monsters. Click the next video. It's already waiting.